Hello friends, today I'll be going over an edited version of the game in the first round of the Cloudspire tournament, narrating what happens during the game, as well as cutting out a lot of the time where people are thinking about their moves and such. If you're not interested in hearing my voice and simply want to watch the game in its entirety, a link to the raw footage will be in the description. The video has no sound, and the biggest difference is that you will be able to watch people setting up their chips. It's mostly there for authenticity, to show that no cheating was done. I apologize in advance for jump cuts. It takes me a few games before I set up my camera points for ease of spectating. Today's game is between Stefan, a still learning player, and myself. Stefan was given the option if he wanted to go first or second, and he elected to go second. Taking the first player position, I choose the Brawnen faction, and Stefan chooses the Grovetenders. With the Brawnen going first, as of the Kickstarter update, the Grovetenders choose their starting position first. They choose the Eastern Path Isle. Brawnen reveal the opposite path isle, orienting the water hexes along the flanks to make for a good defensive position, while also leaving a source well out in front for an aggressive siege tower. The Grovetenders take the south flank isle and orient it with the mountains towards their fortress. This is an interesting choice, as it does give good defense against heroes coming from the side, but it also restricts movements of the Grovetender heroes who would otherwise be able to move along the forested terrain. Brawnen take the southern flank isle, orienting the source wells such that they are close to the center as possible, trying to increase the number of relevant spire locations and ease of access to resources for their heroes to gather. Grovetenders take the Brawnen north flank and orient the source wells towards the edge of the isle, as well as put the water hexes as close to the Brawnen fortress as possible, restricting the Brawnen's ability to access that area. Lastly, the Brawnen finish up island setup by taking the Grovetenders north flank. In this orientation, there are more mountain terrain along the north flank of the Grovetenders' starting position, further restricting movement for their heroes, as well as adding more relevant source well positions that are closer to the north-left isle source wells, making for more easily accessible resource farming. The landmarks are set up randomly. In the tournament, there are 5 landmarks that were removed: the Wounded Priest, because the rules from the Kickstarter update have questions that will not likely get an official answer until November, and 4 random ones. This ensures that every game will have the exact same landmarks, though the positions will change between games. Looking at the starting positions of the landmarks in this game, there are a few things to take note. Firstly, the center island is a ruin landmark. This means that it could be a fountain, a gate port, or lost caverns, which means that claiming the center isle is very likely to be difficult. Another note is that neither faction has a second swamp landmark on their starting isle, but Brawnen does have a second swamp landmark close by, meaning they are likely to get more source than the Grovetenders in a pinch. In the first wave, the event phase is skipped, so the first phase is income, where both factions gain 5 source. Next is the market. Looking at the starter market, we have Babel, Plaguebringer, and Plaguewall. Additionally, we have an Earthscape that has no path hexes. Brawnen get the first choice and elected by the Earthscape for 2 source, setting them to 3. Knowing that the center isle will likely be difficult to control, having ease of access on the source wall will allow them to gain influence that they need. Additionally, the Earthscape doesn't have any path hexes on it, meaning it's very strong for manipulating minion movement. The Grovetenders pass, not wanting any of the spires in the starting market and unable to buy an Earthscape. In the build phase, the Brawnen spend 3 source to buy the Gateport level 1 advancement, which gives them access to 2 market purchases from the market each wave. This is an important purchase against the Grovetenders to help deal with Wyvern in the following waves. The Grovetenders, unsurprisingly, buy Inner Oak level 1, which gives them 4 extra source during the income phase every wave. This makes their maximum source capacity 30, setting them down to 2 source. As their last build option, Brawnen placed their Escape, orienting the source well onto the center isle while also blocking the southern path. Onto the prep phase, the Brawnen deploy their starting hero, Osh, and an Architect. The Grovetenders deploy their starting hero, Daiwen, with a Warbriar and a Vine Herald. This signals the Grovetenders have no intention of summoning on Wave 1, and will instead invest their source into early spires or huge amounts of advancements in Wave 2. Let's see how it goes for them. Starting with the Brownen's first turn, they move Osh 1 hex, and then move their Architect 2 hexes forward. There are no spires, so we move on to Exploration. The Brawnen find a Source Pillar, reveal it, and attack it first with the Architect, who takes 2 damage in retaliation, leaving the Architect at 2, and then with Osh, dealing 3 total damage to the Source Pillar, leaving it at 2. With that, the Brawnen end their turn. The Grovetenders move Daiwen 1 hex onto the forest, then move the Warbriar up 2 hexes, and the Vine Herald 1. With no spires, they explore the swamp and find a Grail Wasps. This is problematic for the Grovetenders, since every one of their units has 1 attack and is adjacent to the landmark, meaning something is going to take relentless damage. The Grovetenders attack with the Warbriar, dealing 1 damage, and the retaliation rolls for... Wow. The Relentless rolls a crit on the first roll, leaving the Warbriar alive to impale another day. Daiwen then finishes it off, giving the Grovetenders 3 source and Daiwen an attack upgrade. Back to the Brawnen, they move their Architect up and move Osh forward. With no spires, they move to Exploration, and seeing a Grail Vipers with their Architect, the Brawnen leave it unrevealed and move on to attacks. Osh, with his Hunter talent, attacks the Source Pillar and deals 2 damage, defeating it, giving the Brawnen 6 source and Osh an attack upgrade. The Grovetenders move up Warbriar and Vine Herald. Then move Daiwen forward, keeping range on the Temple landmark, just in case it's a minion they want to fight. The Grovetenders explore, but choose not to reveal it. It is at this point that there was a 3-minute pause in the gameplay. The call dropped and the players lost track of whose turn it was, so the Grovetenders end up going again. I'm really sorry for the mistake, guys. The Grovetenders start their turn with the limited build option, spending 4 source to put a Shrubbery Spire into play. They then move their units forward, keeping the Vine Herald at a distance to attack the landmark from range, if it is a unit. The Grovetenders explore and reveal a Rogue Grizzled Oak on the center aisle. They move to attacks and attack with the Vine Herald, followed by the Warbriar, who dies to the retaliation, leaving the Grizzled Oak at 4. Daiwen was, unfortunately for the Grovetenders, just out of range. The Brawnen at the start of their movement use the Architect's Builder talent to construct a dispatch platform, ignoring influence restrictions. They then move Osh forward and explore the ruins explored last turn, revealing the Grail Viper. Osh, with his attack upgrade and Hunter talent, defeats the Grail Vipers without retaliation, promoting him and gaining the Brawnen a relic. Grovetenders move to their next turn, moving Daiwen up in range of the Grizzled Oak. And the Vine Herald forward. Moving into the attack step, the Vine Herald attacks the Dispatch platform, removing its range upgrade. Retroactively, the Spire was supposed to fire, so the Spire attacks the Vine Herald, rolling a 1, and applying splash damage, dealing 1 damage to both Daiwen and the Rogue Grizzled Oak, putting it at 3. Osh moves up and attacks the Grizzled Oak. defeating it and getting a Spire reward off the oak. Constructing a dispatch platform. The Brawnen follow up with their relic, Espionage, which allows them to take the upgrade from the Grovetenders' recently constructed shrubbery and add it to their newly constructed spire. Osh also gains an upgrade for defeating the Grizzled Oak, which is a fortification. Grovetenders move Daiwen back towards their fortress, and the Vine Herald moves up and dies to Spirefire, ending the first wave. Moving on to Wave 2, we get our first event, Multitasking. Players may use their limited build options at the ends of their turn. Income, both players gain 7 source. Grovetenders gain an additional 4 source from their advancement, making the current score Brawnen 14 and Grovetenders 12. The market refreshes, clearing all of the old options and replacing them with Lostomire, Bunker, Mini Harvester. The Earthscape in the market is a double path Earthscape. Grovetenders now have their first player in turn order and will use their first market purchase to buy the Mini Harvester for 2 source, giving them the option to gain extra source in following waves. This also lets the Brawnen know that the Grovetenders are likely going to deploy a hero this wave, since they cannot put Mini Harvester on Daiwen. The market refills to an Elite Duelist, which the Brawnen grab without hesitation. Refilling that is Londil. Brawnen, with their Gateport advancement, make a second market purchase and buy Londil. Overall, the Brawnen spend 10 source on the market this wave, but buy 2 of the strongest units in the entire game. Finally, the market is refilled with Time Vials, which is lost on the refresh in the following turn. Moving on to the build phase, Grovetenders build Hollow Shaping level 1, which reduces the cost of summoning from their taproots by 1. The Brawnen spend 2 of their 4 remaining source to put a range upgrade on the westmost dispatch platform. The Grovetenders, wanting to save their source for summoning in the onslaught phase, pass. The Brawnen spend their last 2 sources on a fortification upgrade for the westmost spire. Seeing that the Grovetenders both have equipment for a hero and are saving source for summoning, it's pretty clear that those Grovetenders are going to be deploying Ebanth. Since summon minions from Ebanth only have 1 attack, a fortification upgrade is a strong choice. In the prep phase, Grovetenders deploy a Taproot and Ebanth with a Mini Harvester. The Brawnen take this opportunity to deploy Londil, a Forsaken, and the Elite Duelist, using the Forsaken in front of the Elite Duelist to slow it down. Grovetenders go first, moving the Taproot out, followed closely by Ebanth. Daiwen then moves north. Brawnen follow up by moving Osh back towards the Swamp Hex, then followed by Londil moving adjacent to the swamp. The Forsaken rolls the Forsaken die, getting a no attack, and the Forsaken moves along the path, blocking the Elite Duelist following closely behind. No spires are in range, and the Brawnen explore, revealing a Traxxar Loner. Osh attacks first, dealing 3 damage after his Hunter talent, and Londil finishes it off, defeating the Traxxar and giving the Brawnen 4 source. Londil also gains an attack upgrade for defeating the landmark. The Grovetenders, on their turn, forego moving with Ebanth to summon a Vine Herald for 4 source, and a Warbriar off the Taproot for 2 source thanks to the cost reduction from Hollow Shaping. The Forsaken die is rolled, stopping the Forsaken from moving. Osh moves north towards the concentration of landmarks to try and farm some resources, and Lana moves southeast to do the same. With no spires, Londil explores, finding and revealing a Gateport and a secret passage which she attacks. Back over to the Grovetenders, the Warbriar and the Vine Herald both move up. Daiwen moves behind the Warbriar, and Ebanth moves forward and triggers her Reap talent, gaining 3 source and putting the Grovetenders back up to 4. Spire. The Brawnen elect to target the Vine Herald, on the chance that getting a 3 would prevent the damage. The Brawnen roll 2 and deal it to the Vine Herald. The Brawnen also elect not to apply Splash, which was simply because they forgot to. The Vine Herald attacks the platform, removing its attack upgrade. Osh continues to move north, and the Forsaken rolls his die. No attack. The Forsaken moves forward, keeping along the path, and keeping the Elite Duelist back. Londil rushes forward to the opposing forces. Exploration. Osh explores to find a Traxxar Hellion. Because the unit already has engaged and there is little to no risk, Osh explores the temple only to find a Traxxar Roughneck. This was likely a mistake on the part of the Brawnen, since the engage will prevent Osh from taking advantage of the swamp landmark later until it is killed, or if he walks around. Londil also explores and reveals a gate port. Osh attacks the Hellion, dealing 3 damage and losing his fortification in retaliation. Londil then takes out the Vine Herald, putting the Brawnen at 5 source and gaining a fortification upgrade as a reward. Onto the Grovetenders, who move up the Warbriar. Spire, the first shot doing 1 damage and the second shot doing 2 damage, for a total of 3 damage, leaving the Warbriar at 1. Onto attacks, the Warbriar attacks, removing the range upgrade from the dispatch platform. Daiwin attacks Londil from a range, doing 2 damage and leaving Londil at 2. Abanth then attacks Londil, which triggers retaliation, followed by Leech, leaving Abanth at 3 and Londil at 3. Onto the Brawnen turn, the Forsaken cannot move. As a limited build option, the Brawnen spend 5 source to put 2 range upgrades on their forward dispatch platform. Londil then moves adjacent to Daiwin. With no spires to fire, Osh defeats the Hellion and gaining a fortification upgrade as a reward. Because of the bad positioning potential of the Spire and the limited options on Spires Brawnen have access to, the Brawnen elect to not claim the Spire reward. Londil then attacks Daiwin, defeating her, giving the Brawnen 2 source and healing Londil for 1 from Leech, gaining a fortification upgrade from the defeat. The Grovetenders continue by moving their Warbriar forward, impaling the Forsaken for 1 damage. They elect to do nothing with Abanth. Grovetenders then retroactively use a build option at the start of their turn to gain an attack and a fortification on the Shrubbery Spire. This was a mistake, as both of us have forgotten that the Shrubbery Spire only has a capacity of 2. This does not have any gameplay impact, thankfully, so the mistake can be overlooked. Spire into the Warbriar, the first shot hitting a blank, the second shot defeating the Warbriar, revealing the promoted Taproot underneath. The Taproot then uses its range to take a range upgrade off of the dispatch platform. Back to the Brawnen turn, the Forsaken die is rolled with no penalty this time. The Forsaken moves forward, maintaining its path movement. Londil moves onto the water behind Abanth, taunting the Spire with no range. In the attack step, Osh deals 3 damage to the Roughneck and takes 2 in retaliation, leaving him at 1. Londil then attacks Abanth, dealing 2 damage and being retaliated on for 1, removing his fortification. The Grovetenders try to move Abanth back to base. The Forsaken die is rolled and no attack. The Forsaken moves up, and the Elite Duelist is now free. Osh finishes off the Roughneck, gaining a fortification. Londil defeats Abanth, which gives the Brawnen 2 more source, but also puts their heroes into campfire mode. So now the wave continues until the Elite Duelist is defeated. No attack on the Forsaken. Moves. Spire. 1 damage. Leaves the Forsaken at 5. No attack on the Forsaken. Moves. Spire. 2 damage on the Elite Duelist. The Brawnen make a huge blunder here. They recognize the Shrubbery Spire is quite weak and also at capacity, so they do not attack into the Shrubbery Spire in fear of a stronger Spire taking his place, which is nonsense, given that the Grovetenders have no source. Had they simply attacked the Spire, they would have guaranteed 3 more damage and another Forsaken roll instead of risking not getting any more damage at all. The Duelist attacks the Fortress for 3, putting the Grovetenders at 7, and the Elite Duelist at 2. The Forsaken die is rolled, no attack. Spire's Fire, doing 1 damage to the Duelist, and the Duelist once again hits the Fortress, leaving the Grovetenders 4 and ending the wave. Wave 3, Event. All landmarks have the talent to engage this wave. Not surprisingly, this does nothing. Both players gain income, putting the current source score at 16 on both sides. The market is cleared and refreshed. Timothy, Anarchist, and Roa. The Earscape is the same as last wave. Brawnen go first and elect to buy Timothy for 4 source, denying the option from the Grovetenders. The Grovetenders, recognizing the Brawnen get 2 purchases this wave, buy the Anarchist to prevent the Brawnen from getting it. The Brawnen, with their second purchase, buy the Earthscape. If the game continues, the Earthscape will allow strong siege tower position, sealing the game. On the build phase, Brawnen gets Spelter level 1, giving them access to the promoted spires. Grovetenders spend 5 source on Sharpener level 1, allowing their Fortress Gate to retaliate for 2. Brawnen get Smelter level 2, giving them access to the promoted source sieges and leaving them at 1 source. The Grovetenders pass on the build phase. On the prep phase, Brawnen deploy a basic dispatch and a promoted source siege with Timothy group underneath. Once again, the slower unit is in front holding the faster unit back. The Grovetenders deploy a basic Grizzled Oak, an Anarchist, and a Treed. This is a smart play on the part of the Grovetenders, since talents are inactive in the fortress, so taproots cannot use their summon talent to defend their fortress from the Forsaken and Londil. So having the Grizzled Oak on the top gives their fortress an effective 6 extra health to work with. First move, rolling the Forsaken die, the Brawnen get a no move. They then move the Dispatch, followed by the Source Siege, and move Londil up towards the fortress. Forsaken attacks, which the Grizzled Oak defends against, taking 4 damage and retaliating for 2. Londil then attacks, and the Grovetenders elect to have the Fortress take the damage. The Fortress retaliates for 2, and then Londil heals for 2 with its Leech talent. Grovetenders move up with the Grizzled Oak and roll the event die for Anarchy. The Anarchist survives, and Grizzled Oak attacks the Forsaken, defeating it and rewarding the Grovetenders with 4 source. The Bronnen's turn, they move forward again with the Dispatch and Source Siege. Londil stays put and attacks the Grizzled Oak, defeating it and gaining a fortification as a reward. The Grovetenders roll for Anarchy, survive, and then move forward. They then attack with the tree, dealing 1 damage and taking 2 in retaliation. On the Brawnen turn, Londil hits the opposing Fortress Gate and ends the game. Anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed the first game in Cloudspire tournament. I apologize for the fast cuts and all that. I'm not very good at video editing, but I just wasn't willing to throw the raw footage at people and have them figure out what was going on. The goal of the tournament was to make more quality PvP content for Cloudspire, and hopefully you guys will let me know where to improve. Thanks, guys.